Welcome to Final Word Wrestling, guys. So, today we're doing a review for AEW Fyter Fest, which went down last night. Today's Thursday, July 2nd, so it's the day after, and we're just going to go over every single thing that happened, the direction for AEW coming out of this, how they built up to it, and let's get started. So, at the beginning of the show, Jericho comes out. He's got a pretty nice outfit on. I'm not gonna lie, I really liked his and MJF's outfit. He was money on commentary. You know what I'm saying? He had later on in the show before the Cody match, he was actually making really funny comments about Mike Tyson. You know, his usual thing. I'm gonna kick your ass, whatever. So we start off on the show with an MJF promo. He called Luchasaurus Barney, completely dissed Jungle Boy. He even brought up the ratings war. So off the bat, this is we're getting right into it. Great way to start the show, and MJF's promos are always money, and I think if you watch the product, you know that, and this was no different. So we go into the tag match: MJF and Wardlow versus Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. So during the match, I'm trying to recall this from memory and tell it how I remember it. I remember Luchasaurus and Wardlow were absolutely amazing in this match. They were both doing dives and everything. And for Luchasaurus, like, we knew that he had this athletic ability, but for Wardlow, it's a little bit like, whoa, I did not know that he had this. And I think if he continues to go where it looks like he's going, he's gonna have a lot of potential. I really enjoy these kinds of big athletic, wrestlers like Luchasaurus and Damian Priest and Dominic Dijakovic and those types of guys. I think this is gonna be one of the staples in the future of professional wrestling. These bigger athletic guys that have size but can dive and do all these kinds of things. It's a little bit like in other sports like basketball where you'll see big men that can shoot threes. It's the same thing in pro wrestling, just in a different light. So in the match, MJF, near the end of the match, he pulls I think it's the dynamite diamond ring, he calls it. Pulls it out of his trunks, and he's trying to hit Luchasaurus, who's being held by Wardlow. He tries to go for the hit, but Luchasaurus breaks free. And then Luchasaurus, I think it was him or Jungle Boy, I forget which one. One of them pushed him into Wardlow. He accidentally punches Wardlow, and he gets pinned 1, 2, 3 by, I believe it was Luchasaurus. So wait, I think it was him. No, maybe it was Wardlow who got pinned. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not exactly recalling 100%. And then after the match, MJF walks away from Wardlow. And so this is obviously setting up what we all knew would eventually happen, which is Wardlow and MJF breaking up. Now, I think we all know MJF is at some point in line for a title shot. I think maybe at All Out, maybe. I mean, because I believe he's ranked number one actually, and I've always been talking about how Hangman should be the one to take the title off of Mox, and we'll get more into Hangman later on in the show. But I think MJF is somebody that needs to get a title shot during this Moxley reign. I can only, because Moxley has that badass attitude combined with MJF's heel just completely scathing, tearing his opponents apart promos. I think that's an excellent combination that I would love to see happen before Moxley drops the title to Hangman. But a lot of people are actually saying that they want to see MJF take the title off of him. So I guess we'll see about that. Not exactly sure. So moving on, next was they have a puppy battle royal announcement for, I think it was next week or the week after, I forget. So off the rip, when I was seeing this, I was like, I don't know what this is. Like, are they gonna have just gonna throw puppies into the ring and make them do a battle royal? That doesn't make a lot of sense. Puppies obviously don't know the rules, so it's a little bit confusing. It's obviously supposed to be just an entertaining thing where it's not like, a serious thing, obviously. So I I really don't know what they're doing with that, but we're just gonna skip over for now because I'm not really sure if anyone has a clue what the hell a puppy battle royal is gonna be. Is it gonna involve Pharaoh? Is it gonna involve a dog of a different wrestler? I don't know. So moving on, Lance Archer and Joey Janela brawling. So we know that Joey Janela has been teaming with Sonny Kiss recently, and when you see this team, the first thing that comes to mind is TK is basically telling Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss, I have nothing to throw you guys in, so this is what we're gonna do. And their segment on Dynamite last week, it was entertaining. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty good, but I feel like this is either gonna be excellent or it's gonna fall flat on its face. I think that they could really run even though I think this originally came from Joey, we don't have nothing to do for you. Sonny, we don't have nothing to do for you. I think that they could eventually pair these guys up and actually give them a solid run in the tag division. But if they do it wrong, this could, I and there's a good chance of both ways happening. I'm not gonna say I don't think there's a bigger chance of either falling flat on his face or it being a big thing. There's I think 50-50 shot. So by putting Lance Archer versus Joey Janela, Archer has to win, right? Because on the last pay-per-view, which I believe was Double or Nothing, I think. Don't get me wrong, I love Cody. One of my favorite wrestlers right now. But I think that because Archer lost, right? I think he should have won, right? But because Archer lost, and so did Brody Lee, now Cage is the new monster heel. And I think one mistake that AEW is making is there's too many of these monster heels coming in that are, not losing and just being portrayed as monsters. First we had Archer, then it was Brody Lee, and now it's Brian Cage. They need to kind of, okay, maybe not Brian Cage. I take that back. But with Archer and Lee, I hope they put this kind of thing off for a while. No more of this, I'm undefeated, I'm this undefeated big monster heel. No more of that for now. I think they need to just put that away, and maybe when the time comes, like if they sign a Rusev a year down the line, maybe that's when you bring someone like that back. So, but actually, now that I give a second thought to it, I don't see how this Janela Kiss thing is gonna work, because if they already lost to Colt Cabana and Brody Lee this past week on Dynamite. Now they're gonna lose, and now Janela is gonna lose to Lance Archer. So you're basically, I don't know how they're gonna recover this angle. Sorry, that's my text. I don't know how they're gonna make this go right after Janela loses to Archer. I just can't see it. I don't know. Joey Janela, ever since I think it was Fyter Fest last year, we had a match with Moxley, the the crazy, hardcore match. He's really done nothing, and he's one of the guys that has not been utilized well. And Sean Spears, who I'm going to address later, has finally been given direction. Those two, I think, are probably the two names that really pop out when you think which wrestlers have not been used properly in AEW. So we'll get to that later. So I'm going a little bit out of order here. Because I want to break down the matches together, and I'm breaking down the other segments earlier. I'm gonna try to go more in chronological order the next time I do this, but this is you live and you learn. So this is my first attempt at this. So last night, I believe it was in the middle or later on the show, I don't remember, we had the Taz Technique segment. Now, I gotta tell you guys, I love the Taz Technique segments. They're just perfect. It gives AEW that sport kind of feel that, they said that they were looking for when they started their promotion. And so last night we had him breaking down the paradigm shift. Now, this was obviously a little bit different because he's also managing Brian Cage, which means he's gonna take some digs at Mox and show why Brian Cage is going to win, which obviously he won't, but Taz is his manager, so he's got to make him look strong. So Taz talks about how Brian Cage, his muscles, obviously he's probably, him, Kota Ibushi, Pac, and Bobby Lashley, maybe a few others. Those four, like when you think who's got the best physiques. So Taz is saying that because of his physique, Mox can't get his underhook in, which is going to prevent him from giving the full impact of that paradigm shift finisher. So we're gonna get to the promo that he cut later on this podcast. So we had later also we had a backstage interview with Kenny and Hangman. Now there's actually a lot that happened right here. So this is kind of another tool to move this kind of breaking up story onward. And it's the first time I noticed blue on the tag belt design. I don't know how. They added it at some point, because at the beginning, if you look at the past pictures when the titles first debuted with SCU, the blue wasn't on there. So I don't know when it came in, but I noticed it. I really liked it, actually. I don't know. Maybe I'm just blind. But Kenny and Hangman were talking to Dasha, and at the end, Hangman looked at Kenny weird. So obviously they're moving forward with this breakup angle. A lot of people are like, Hangman's really over. He's got this strong babyface kind of character right now. Personally, I think he has to go heel. With the way that they're going, there's no way he doesn't go heel. So I think we're looking at a Kenny Hangman feud here. My prediction is that Hangman is actually going to be the first man to kick out of the one-winged angel, and he will be the one to eventually take the title off of Moxley after he gets that, really star power push. And I think Matt Jackson has said this on his Instagram story before, that he was asked who will be the biggest AEW star in a year, and he said Hangman. So I'm assuming that means in a year's time. So by the end of the year, I think, because the question was by the end of the year. So by the end of the year, I think that Hangman is going to have to be the AEW World Champion. There's no other way if he's saying that he's going to be the biggest star. So we had a Darby vignette, which he's just been doing the past few weeks. Just this typical skateboarding thing. Nothing too different, but they're obviously setting, once Brian Cage loses, Darby, if you guys remember at Double or Nothing, the ladder match, the casino ladder match, they had this, they had a moment at the end where the two were facing off, and it looks like the two are going to enter in a feud, so it looks like they're saving Darby for Cage, which I like, but now it's one of those questions where who's going to win, because they both need it. Darby is potentially one of their top face guys, because whether it's Hangman or MJF, one of those is going to take the title off of Moxley. Darby's got to be one of the challengers. I'd even love to see Darby actually as one of the challengers for Moxley. I don't think he's challenged yet. So he needs the win. If Cage loses to Moxley and then Darby, that's a terrible look on him. So I don't know if we're looking at a fuck finish. I don't know what the hell's gonna happen. But I'm not. I love the idea of Darby versus Brian Cage, but I don't know how it's gonna work exactly right now. So we have an announcement that Fight for the Fallen in 2 weeks is going to be Moxley versus Cage. This is obviously due to the situation with Renee Young having the virus, and Moxley is married to her, so they're worried that even though he's tested negative, he's worried and whatever. And so I would not be surprised if NXT decides that they're going to counter program that with their own show. Because at this point, if you guys haven't noticed already, you've probably been living under a rock, but AEW basically has NXT on strings at this point. Think about it. Every time that AEW has that big show, NXT's like, we gotta counter with our own. and you can see it's getting desperate. Sasha Banks versus Io Shirai, right? That's just a prime example. Now I haven't seen it yet. I'm gonna watch it. I love the idea of that match. I think that's great. Those are two of the best performers in the world right now. Probably you could probably say two of the top five women's wrestlers, but when you do it in this kind of way, it's obviously a desperation move. So, yeah, that's my opinion about how WWE and operates with their NXT brand to try to counter program AEW, and we're gonna talk more about contrasting AEW and WWE later on. So, with this Moxley versus Cage thing, Taz comes out. This is the promo that I was referencing earlier. He just absolutely flames Jon Moxley, like no holding back. Says he's scared and whatever because, truth be told, he did test negative. So this is, I don't know if this is a shoot or a little bit, but Taz basically says Mox is scared, even though he tested negative. All he had to do is show up, but he's just scared of Cage and whatever. And I forgot exactly what he said, but if you guys watch that promo, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Great promo. If you didn't watch the show, check it out. I thought it was great. So let's see. There's so much happening right now for AEW. So you know why don't we get to more of the matches? So second match I believe was Shida versus Ford. So this match was a solid women's match. It wasn't nothing phenomenal, but at the end, basically Kip Sabian got kicked out at the beginning. They had a lot of fighting and whatever. Then later, the referee's distracted. Kip Sabian comes out, tries to take Hikaru Shida's kendo stick, tries to hit her, but then she hits back and whatever, sends him out of the ring. He actually had a really nice, funny sell at the end, and Shida pins Ford, as we all knew would happen. So, here's the problem, right? With AEW's women's division, I don't really know exactly where they go. They can't. I know Tessa Blanchard has been released recently from Impact, but AEW can't just proceed and sign her because everything that Tony Khan has done about, making sure none of these kind of bad influences get into the AEW locker room, you can throw all that in the trash. Even if Tully's in AEW, you can throw all that away if Tessa ends up in AEW, right? And that would make him and the company look terrible. I don't think they should sign her, especially with the way she's made racist comments in the past. So, without Tessa Blanchard, right, AEW has to really start thinking what the hell are they going to do with their women's division. Because I don't have the roster pulled up or nothing right now, but I can list you some names that they have right now. They have Riho, Chris Statlander, Awesome Kong. They have Shauna, Anna Jay, Hikaru Shida, Penelope Ford, Nyla Rose. So these are the names. Big Swole, Britt Baker, right? But none of these women are really over, right? You can't say that none of these women are really over, like a Moxley or an MJF or a Hangman or a Kenny or somebody on that kind of level. Obviously, we've been pretty, as fans, critical of AEW's women's division since their first show. And I don't think it's gotten a little bit better, especially Britt Baker. I'm really liking her heel character. We'll get into that later on. But in terms of direction right now, who's going to take the title off of Sheeta? No one really has that kind of, like, wow, this person has a lot of momentum. No one has that in the AEW women's division. Britt might be able to have that when she comes back because she's been doing great character work. But, I mean, who else is there? You know what I mean? And it's not like the women have been putting on phenomenal matches like the men have. It's not a dig at women or nothing, but it's just the truth. We haven't seen that, oh my god, we haven't seen that kind of match so far with the women in AEW. And so my question is, Sheeta's a great person to be holding the title, but you kind of don't have any women to build around. And I'm not faulting AEW. They've actually been doing an okay job with booking. unlike WWE. Imagine if AEW had WWE's women's talent that, you can wave goodbye to WWE. AEW wins the ratings war in a landslide. But the fact of the matter is they don't. So with the women, I don't know what they're going to do. This is really something where you have to rely on the talent to get themselves over. But then it's difficult because you see so many of these Japanese wrestlers that can't cut a great, the great kind of promos that you'll see from somebody that can speak English, because obviously there's a language barrier and it's going to be hard to get yourself over. So it's very hard with what AEW has now with their women's division. So, I mean, the only option I see here is you need to get your talent to probably put on better matches, and you might need to sign a few more people here and there. Some, maybe you lure a few people away from WWE, and you have to build from there. But otherwise, their women's division, it'll stay afloat because their booking's not bad. But as for the time being, it's not going to be like their tag division, which is absolutely through the roof. Probably the best tag team division we've ever seen in wrestling. Unlike New Japan and unlike WWE, who actually has the talent but just doesn't know how to book because they don't put any effort in. But we'll actually have another podcast about New Japan later on, which I'm not sure when that's going to come out, but I do want to talk about New Japan because they're in a very interesting spot right now as well. So, okay, so I think the next match was Cody versus Jake Hager. So, Jake Hager comes out with Catalina, his wife. Cody comes out with Arn Anderson, the coach of the Nightmare Family, and it was a solid match. Cody wins via roll-up, which, I think is the right way to go here, because either Hager had to win, or in order to make him look strong, you had to have like a roll-up or some sort of interference, and they did both, which I think is the right move here. Especially if you want to, because Hager, you have to have him look strong, but he's not that great of a wrestler, at least as of right now. So I think the smart decision is to keep the title on Cody. I don't know when he's gonna drop it. Probably, he could drop it to Darby, because remember we saw that time when Darby punched him after their match. You could have him drop it to somebody like I don't know, Brian Cage maybe, or Brody Lee, somebody of that kind of level. But so that's really all I have to say for that. There's really not nothing that really stands out like, oh my god, So next match is LAX, or they're not part of. They don't call themselves that anymore. Santana and Ortiz versus Private Party. Now, I actually met Private Party. If you know me, I might have told you. I met Private Party at House of Glory High Intensity. I think it was 8, which was last year, a few days before my birthday last year. It was last summer. And they're really cool. I've always loved what Santana and Ortiz can do. So these are probably two of maybe my 3 favorite tag teams, with those 2 teams and the Young Bucks. Those are probably my 3 favorites, in no particular order. But I also met the Young Bucks, but that's besides the point. So this was again a lot like the other segments. It wasn't a standout match, but most of the matches on the card it wasn't nothing fantastic, but it was solid. It was solid. It's not like a WWE pay-per-view match, but it's not like a New Japan Wrestle Kingdom kind of match. It would be like something that you would call an above average TV match. Let's just put it that way. So, I guess it's not like a big pay-per-view, so it's alright. So, after the match, Jericho tosses his drink at Private Party. So now, and Orange Cassidy was on the commentary desk for this, so I don't know. Does this mean that we're going to have Inner Circle versus Private Party? And Private Party is obviously working with Matt Hardy now. Matt Hardy is beef with Jericho. So does that mean we're going to see Jericho and 2 of his cronies versus Hardy and Private Party? that's looks like the direction they're going in. I'm open to seeing that. I'm open. I'm very open to seeing that. Um, but I don't really have too much of an opinion on Jericho and this private party angle. I think I just think it's here's the difference. One of the differences. We'll talk more about this later. But here's one of the differences between AEW and WWE is that you'll have W here who's gonna make a good transition, right? A good transition feud to for these guys to then move on into their next big thing. And then we have WWE that gives us Drew McIntyre versus Dolph Ziggler and shit like that absolutely nobody gives a fuck about, right? I mean, it's pointless, and Dolph Ziggler hasn't even been built up. That's another story. I don't even want to do a whole rant on that. Here a rant about Raw and SmackDown. Go check out JD from NY206 on YouTube. Great guy. He's watching him. I'll tell you is better than watching the show. So you're welcome, JD, for the free endorsement. So anyway, we have. I know I don't have a lot of viewers right now, obviously, if any, but if you're here right now, thank you very much. I'm not saying I have, I'm gonna bring a lot of views to JD, but hopefully that helped by a couple of views. To end the night, we had Kenny and Hangman versus the Best Friends. So, this again, just another okay match, but what's more important is what happened after the match. So FTR comes out. In my opinion, they're going to be the team that takes the titles off of Kenny and Hangman when they finally do break up. But, they're trying to toast Kenny and Hangman. They give them some beers. Obviously, Hangman is drinking away, as he's supposed to for his character. And Kenny, we know he's straight edge, so he doesn't do that kind of stuff. He gives them the cheers and whatever, and he pours out the beer. But Dax Harwood, formerly known as Scott Dawson, catches him, and he's like, what the fuck? So then, they start confronting him. The Young Bucks come out, save Kenny. They didn't attack Kenny, but, they're obviously confronting him. They have an issue with it. The Young Bucks come out, save Kenny, and you can see that actually, well, at the end, when the Young Bucks are, trying to separate Kenny and everyone else, you can see that they're kind of standing next to Kenny, whereas actually Hangman is kind of standing next to FTR. And at the end of the match, keep in mind, if you watch the show, you would know, and if you didn't, it's fine. I can tell you right now, Hangman used a buckshot lariat to win. Two things right there. What's interesting is that he actually used to use that as kind of setup for the Deadeye move, which used to be called was it called like the Rite of Passage or something? I forgot what his move was originally called, but that used to be his main finisher. But now it looks like it's gonna be the buckshot lariat. So that's number one. Number two, he won the match kind of without doing the last call tag finisher with Kenny, which is basically buckshot lariat V trigger combination. So that basically tells you that they couldn't hint at it more that these two are gonna separate. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. When Kenny and Hangman had their backstage interview, Hangman looked at Kenny weird. So there's another hint, right? All signs are absolutely pointing to these two breaking up. So as for the tag division's direction, I'm thinking right now that FTR, I mean, because if you think about the tag team, they have so many great tag teams, but there's no one team that's like, this team is going to definitely take the title off of Kenny and Hangman. As of right now, at least. But the closest one I can think of is FTR. And especially with the way their momentum looks like it's going to be built up. And their performances on Dynamite have been pretty good. So I think they're definitely going to be the next team to take the titles off of Hangman and Kenny. But now my question is, do they feud with the Young Bucks first or Kenny and Hangman? Because what I'm thinking is you can have, because the Young Bucks, that's obviously the big match, right? But Kenny and Hangman are the champions. So I'm thinking direction here is you go Kenny and Hangman versus FTR in a feud. Hangman turns heel. he joins FTR. So there's a new trio, and we're gonna get into a trios title discussion later on. So Hangman turns heel to join FTR, and then Kenny's obviously with the Bucks. You have two trios right there. And so basically, what's gonna happen is you have FTR. So basically, Hangman and Kenny are gonna drop the titles to FTR because Hangman is gonna turn on Kenny. He's gonna help FTR. They're gonna become the champions. You have two new trios born right there, and then you're gonna have the 6-man feud, Kenny and the Bucks versus Hangman and FTR, right? And then you're gonna have eventually Kenny and Hangman in terms of singles competition, and you're gonna have FTR versus the Young Bucks, and then there's the point where Hangman's gonna kick out of the one-winged angel, and then now immediately put that's like almost okay. I should say breaking the streak kind of level, which is what I was gonna say, but it's probably one of the biggest things you can do right now in AEW that will just absolutely propel you to the top. So then you propel him to the top. You have FTR versus the Young Bucks. You could really go either way with that feud. It doesn't matter who wins. You have so many tag teams. They've done an excellent job with it. But I think because I think they have more teams on the babyface side. I think, or they have a couple heel teams as well. But I think you keep the titles on FTR there. But the one thing I have to say about that is the Young Bucks are great guys. Because when I met them last summer, I mean, like these two are like I mean, a lot of celebrities, like some of them, like here, like, oh, this person's mean or whatever. They're not really mean. You just probably were an airport creep or some shit like that, and obviously you're gonna piss them off like that. But anyway, so the Young Bucks are great guys, and I have a feeling that they might be too humble here, because they're okay. Listen, for me, if I had to rank the top 5 tag teams in the world right now, number 1 is the Young Bucks. Number 2 is probably, I don't know, FTR. 3 is the Usos. 4 is probably, I don't know, probably the Undisputed Era with Fish and O'Reilly, or any of the combinations with Roderick Strong. And then 5 is the Lucha Bros, right? So the Young Bucks are, they're in my opinion, still been the best tag team in the world. They've been running tag team wrestling for what, like 6 years now or some shit like that. So, but the thing is, they haven't been champions, and their elite stablemates Kenny and Hangman have. So now it's like, are they being too humble and kind of like, I don't want them to destroy themselves by being too humble. Another thing I actually forgot to mention is the Best Friends. They had this creative entrance, which I really like. It was a little bit kind of a play out of FTR's book where they came in a car, right? It's FTR's thing, driven by, but it worked because it was driven by Trent's mom, right? And their best friends kind of thing. It gives you a little bit of like they're a little bit like children, like his mom kisses him on the cheek and whatever, and he's like, "Bye, mom," and whatever. So I actually really liked that. It was really funny. And Britt Baker, when the Best Friends passed her, she was making facial expressions and playing right into her character, which is great. I think that it's great that they're giving Britt Baker a little bit of time every single show to do something like this. And I forgot when I saw this, but I actually saw an interview recently with Britt Baker and somebody else, and she was talking about how she met Adam Cole on Bumble or whatever, and then but the point that I'm trying to address is, so after they started dating and things moved on, she said she was looking at what Adam Cole does, and his facial expressions and how that can tell a whole story, and I think she does a really good job of that here, especially recently. With every single time somebody does something to her, she's making her facial expressions, whether it be a Tony Schiavone or somebody else, or as Jericho likes to say, Skiabone, right? So yeah, I think she could be probably the next women's champion if we're thinking about it, because I don't see any other heel female taking the title off of Hikaru Shida. So now let's move on to the Shawn Spears direction. So the one complaint I have about the show is that we didn't see Shawn Spears, and Shawn Spears, when he came, he was like, this guy was so underutilized, and he had that nice feud with Cody, but then he kind of started doing nothing, and it was like, well, what the hell is going on? Because he was supposed to, be like he looked like he was gonna be one of the bigger names for AEW when they first started, but it ended up looking like he's just kind of doing nothing. So now he's, he after that promo with Tully Blanchard the other time, um, so obviously he's being set up for something big, uh, whether it be a push to get to eventually the TNT title or the world title. He's probably gonna start racking up some wins, and the thing is, why wasn't he on the show? Is my only complaint, because Sean Spears, especially with what you showed, I think it was last week on Dynamite, that thing with Tully Blanchard. If you're gonna give him a push, you need to have him on the show and do something, which could have set up an angle or something. Whether it be with Cody or somebody else, doesn't matter. You could have had him and Joey Janela if you. But I mean, I guess it's fine to put Archer there. But I'm just giving you examples of maybe you could fit him into that feud somewhere. Triple threat. I don't know. And then he can pin Janela, and then Archer's protected, and there's a lot of directions you can go with Spears, but they just need to be aware that he's a really he's been underutilized his whole career, and if they use him right, he could be something big for them. Spears, I want to talk about the trios title that I mentioned earlier. So obviously, sorry, that's my phone again. Obviously the AEW is full of tag teams, and now they're actually full of trios. And I think because they have so many teams, listen, I'm usually not a fan for more titles. They already have 3 titles, but I think right now the trios this is probably the last title they should have for a long time, but I really think it needs to happen, because if you think about it, right, all the trios that they have what? Dark Order. You could team Brody, Evil Uno, and you could team them with I forgot what his name is. I'm blanking on it. The other leader of the Dark Order, I forgot. Stu Grayson. You could team them. Best Friends and Orange Cassidy. Death Triangle, which is Lucha Bros and Pac. You have with the ending of the show, you could have now Kenny and the Bucks and Hangman and FTR. You could have you have Jurassic Express. You have SCU. You have there's probably others I'm missing right now, but who I mean, who else? Anyway, you get the point. There, you could team any 3 of the Inner Circle together. There's so many combinations that you could put together. I think that the only downside to it would be if building 6-man feuds is going to take away from the different combinations that you could just throw together for other things. That's the only reason why I could see that they wouldn't add the trios title, which means maybe so say you had Death Triangle versus SCU for the trios title, but then if Pac and Scorpio Sky are feuding, then you can't put those teams together just as a match to further that feud. That's the only reason why I would say that they wouldn't do that. But other than that, I mean, give me somebody else some titles, and and it's also different. I think that I actually wasn't a fan of the TNT title. I was never a fan of the idea, but they had it, so it's whatever. But it seems like they're making it work, so that's fine. But I don't want to. Other than the trios title, once again, I gotta repeat this. I don't want to see any other championships. I think it's just unnecessary. When you look at what WWE has, and I'm gonna transition into contrasting AEW and WWE here. They have what 2 heavyweight titles, one for each brand, right? Then they have the U.S. title, Intercontinental title. They have tag titles, women's tag titles. They have the 24/7 title down in NXT. They have, and NXT's actually doing okay because they just have cruiserweight, North American, NXT title, women's, and tag. Right, that's fine. But the main roster is way too many titles, and and also there's too many people not being utilized. So, when you look at WWE, that like every show, and I haven't been watching the product too closely the last couple of weeks because it's just been so shitty. I've just been watching JD's reviews, but like you get a sense of what the product is like, and like just look at the tag team division is absolutely. I don't even know how they recovered from this. Like, you compare Andrade Cien Almas, or Andrade, they shortened his name, and Angel Garza, but I don't, with the way their show operates, I don't see how there's no investment in any storylines. I don't see how they're gonna, really elevate to a top tag team. You've basically, I don't even know. The Viking Raiders are basically pointless now. I don't even know what they're doing there. The Street Profits, like you had them play basketball, golf, decathlon, axe throwing. Like, are you kidding me? This is a fucking wrestling show, not a game show. I don't even know if you do that on a game show. I'm just spitting on random shit. But you understand what I mean? This is not just something where you just do whatever. Like the tag team, like, and who, the New Day is the New Day is the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. They've been a fucking stale act for 3 years. 3 years. Nothing's changed. And what do you have? Miz and Morrison, who are now a comedy act. Miz has went from an upper mid card singles competitor that could potentially even challenge for the heavyweight title, which is right now this is the Universal Championship on SmackDown. But when he was in that position, it was a WWE Championship. He went from that kind of level to now, what, like somebody that I couldn't care less about. John Morrison, remember when he was in Lucha Underground, and remember when he was doing like solid stuff in Impact. Now look at what he's doing. Nothing meaningful at all. Um, who else? We have controversy surrounding the Forgotten Sons, who will literally be forgotten, and just because people are, I don't really know what the whole deal with Jackson Riker is. Like, all I know is that he's apparently Trump supporting. People don't like that. Like, that's just kind of stupid. Like, he's entitled to his own opinion, but apparently then there was someone else that said he's racist or something. So I really don't know what the hell is happening with them, but we'll leave that to WWE to decide. Um, but you can see, the Usos are gone. That's like the one tag team that was still doing okay, but then I think it was Jimmy that got hurt. Yeah, Jimmy Uso got hurt. So now we're left with nothing good in this tag team division. I mean, don't bring up Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro because they are absolutely, like, they don't belong together. All right, let's just put it that way. These are two of the top singles guys, and so is Sami Zayn. But because W in quotes is nothing for them, they just threw these three together and just said, you know what, you go do this. And then they just want to rinse and repeat the same fucking combinations, whether it be on Raw and SmackDown, tag match after tag match after stupid 6-man match. And then after that, we have a match that we're actually semi-excited for, and then it turns into another fucking 6-man match. Like, you see the cycle over and over again. I don't need to watch the product to know that it's happening. I mean, it was happening just as recent as a couple of weeks ago. And then, you have, I mean, what is it? You had the thing with Seth, and you could, JD explained this well on his podcast too, off the script. You have Seth, remember when he was with AOP and Murphy? Now it's Seth, Murphy, and Theory. And then before it was, like Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe, and some other people. And then now it's Aleister Black, Humberto Carrillo, who I still don't even know what the fuck he's doing on TV because he's just a white meat babyface. I don't even know what he's about. I just remember last year. It was one time he just showed up and then he started showing up. I still don't know who the fuck he is. Like, give me a reason to cheer for this guy. He's like a solid in-ring competitor, you could tell, but I don't give a shit. I literally don't give a shit. Like, just the same thing with like Lucha House Party and stuff. We don't even know why they're there. They're just there to just be a filler. They're not in anything meaningful. And then who else is in that combination? You throw Rey Mysterio in that combination. You're gonna soon have Dominic in the conversation. Maybe you'll throw in Kevin Owens. I don't even know. They're just basically saying, you know what? Like, you could literally tell. how they do this. They just say, look, here are our champions. Let's just say let's see who we have. Okay, you're not doing anything. Here, I'm gonna take you and I'm gonna throw you in this feud. This team is not doing anything. All right, here. We don't care about how much they've been built up. You're just gonna go do this, and you're gonna go do this. That's basically WWE. And then they just write some stupid promo. Here you go. That's it. And then you have people saying, "Oh, well, Vince McMahon works so hard. This and that." Okay, yeah, maybe he works hard at being, at fucking telling people that Brock Lesnar's the reason why we don't have ratings. Is that what he works hard on? He works hard on his fucking speeches to his investors. It's ridiculous. So I mean, you look at their women's division, and like, what the fuck has happened there? Now you're using Sasha in desperation. So what do you want to do? Us to do boo Sasha on the same level as you're gonna, as we booed Charlotte? This is, I don't even know. The only way I could think that's fucking idiotic yes man Bruce Pritchard, Kevin Dunn, and Vince McMahon can come up with a way to justify it is because they want people to boo Sasha Banks so that we still don't know who's going to be the face and the heel between Sasha Banks and Bayley, but maybe they want to make Sasha the heel. But that doesn't make sense either. There's a difference between a good boo and a bad boo. A good boo is like when someone's a good heel and people like just hate them. A bad boo is like when we're booing someone because of their shitty booking. But a bad boo would be like if I booed Humberto Carrillo because I don't know what the fuck he's doing on TV. I want to cheer. I want to. But if you just make him a white meat guy that's just there just to make the save for something that he's not even involved in, or he shouldn't be involved in, I'm not going to buy into that. You can't tell me, oh, I want to save Rey Mysterio. Because Rey Mysterio's my, like, can you give me a little more depth than that than just I want to say Rey Mysterio because he's my idol? And then what? In the women's division you have Charlotte and I don't understand. First you overpush Charlotte, overexpose her. We're getting her 3 nights a week, right? And then she's getting the NXT Women's Championship. Doesn't put anybody over on her way out. And then she's probably gonna run roughshod over. Guys, Charlotte versus Nia versus Asuka is still in the cards for SummerSlam. So when you heard that Charlotte's going out for elective surgery, we know what she's getting. We all know it. Basically, WWE asks their women to do this all the time, so I don't think I need to clarify it anymore. So she's not injured. She's going to be back by SummerSlam. That's what... There are people that say that she's going to be out to the Royal Rumble, but the most accurate reports are saying that she's still going to pin Nia Jax at SummerSlam for the championship. And then we're going to have Asuka couldn't beat Charlotte, and that... Oh, wait. No, she tapped her out, I think. Or some stupid story like that nobody wants to see. Can you... do I need to run through all the names of the talent that you're not using? Shayna Baszler, Bianca Belair. You're not using Naomi. You're not using... I think Ember Moon might be injured, so I'll give you a pass on that. Liv Morgan, Ruby Riott. You're not using... Listen. Even Natalya. And they're now putting her on TV, but in some stupid shit with Lana. Who cares? I don't. I'll tell you, I don't. I remember back in 2000, I think it was 16, Natty had a feud with Charlotte, and it was the one where Bret Hart was in Natty's corner and Ric Flair was in Charlotte's corner. I actually cared. Natty is actually a pretty decent storyteller, pretty solid storyteller. But if you put in her with Lana, I don't give a shit. I really don't. When you put her in a meaningful story, then I will care. If you put her in a position where she looks at least, like a mid-card type of woman, someone that can actually do something, like, then I'm gonna care. That there's others too. Like, who else do they have? Your Lacey Evans is shitty, completely shitty as a babyface. Sonya Deville's she's doing okay, right? Nothing fantastic. But you get the point. You went from straight from overexposing Charlotte, and you're gonna overexpose Sasha. You're gonna ruin every single person on until your women's division is just as bad as your tag division. And trust me, I think that's Bruce and Vince's goal, and they're getting pretty close. I'm telling you right now, they're a few steps away from doing so. It's not that their men's division is much better. You have Drew defending against Dolph Ziggler, who has not been built up at all. You just throw him in and say, here's your fucking feud, even though Dolph Ziggler has done nothing to deserve a title shot other than, like, actually, if he moves brains, it makes him deserve even less, if in my opinion. So, and then the Universal Championship on SmackDown after Braun loses it to the Fiend at SummerSlam, because we know he's gonna beat the Lantern Bray Wyatt at Extreme Fools, as JD likes to call it, the horror show, which it actually describes every single fucking TV show that they put out. After that, who are you gonna give it to? Who's Bray gonna feud with? Miz? Like, seriously, Miz is actually a heel. What kind of baby face do you have for Bray? You don't have any baby faces. What are you gonna do? Ask Roman to come back? He's not coming back until this whole thing blows over, because he wants to spend time with his family, and he, now he looks like a fucking genius for doing so. Look at what WWE is doing now. Now that wrestlers are all getting sick and whatever, right? Like I don't even know what the hell they're doing, but then you contrast something like WWE's booking to AEW's booking, which actually makes sense. Every story is actually meaningful. When someone's on TV, it's meaningful. It means something. Like, it makes you get invested in it. That there's a big difference between AEW and WWE, and it's basically WWE and most other promotions that actually have time to build stuff. WWE does not give a shit. It's obvious. They haven't done so since early 2017, and that's when their show really actually began to go downhill, and then it just continued and continued, and now guess what? Now they got rid of Paul Heyman, and now what? You're gonna bring back fucking Big Show? Listen, I love Big Show. He's a great guy, but when he's on the show and Shayna Baszler is not, I have a problem with that. And a lot of people criticize Christian being on TV. I don't have a problem with Christian being on TV. If he wants to do this thing that one time, that's cool. But if you're bringing Big Show on now every week, then we obviously have an issue here, and it's staring at all his fans right in the fucking face. Like, now you get rid of Paul Heyman. Now listen, the push that the young guys was getting, it wasn't even the kind of push that Paul Heyman probably wanted. Like, the stories wasn't told that how Heyman wanted it told. But at least we're getting younger guys, some attention, some spotlight. Now, not only do we still not have any good storylines, now you're bringing older guys. How is that supposed to help the product? I can't wait till the day when Stone Cold and Undertaker and Cena and Rock and whoever else just says, we just don't want to show up no more. When Shawn Michaels, Triple H is just like, we don't want to do this. We're just not gonna come to. We're just gonna stay home and retire. Then who's WWE gonna bring back as the draw? And I hope Lesnar does that too. It would be much better that way. And Goldberg and everybody else that is a draw in quotes in WWE's eyes. I can't wait till one day all those big stars and those draws that are in quotes, like Goldberg and Lesnar, who aren't that level of a superstar, but WWE considers them a draw. I can't wait till the day that they stay home. Because guess what? Then who are you going to bring in for a draw? Because you did not build younger stars today, you're not going to have it tomorrow. We've addressed most of the angles, though, for AEW and for every division. And the only one I didn't really talk about yet is the Brody Lee Anna Jay Cole Cabana thing. I'm really excited actually to see how that really comes together and everything. I guess they're looking to switch up Anna Jay's gimmick from the star of the show to maybe like a darker version. I'm not really sure, but I'm sure that knowing Cody, TK, the Young Bucks, Kenny, they're gonna have something good planned. So, in terms of next week's preview, so I think the main thing on the card next week is the 8-man tag between, I think it's the Young Bucks and FTR versus Butcher and Blade and the Lucha Brothers. So, I think that's oh wait, no, actually I'm looking at a cage match right now. The world tag team title match between Page and Omega versus Private Party is actually the main event. So I'm just gonna leave my prediction. So to start off, we have Archer versus Janela. So I think that we all know that goes to Lance Archer. We have Nyla Rose versus mystery competitor. Unless it's like an Awesome Kong or something, Nyla Rose is probably gonna win. To keep her at the top of the women's division as one of the top women. Cole Cabana in the Dark Order, which is Brody Lee and Stu Grayson, is gonna face SCU. But this one, like I don't know about this match because this is one of those situations where it's hard to get out of because you might have booked yourself into a corner here. You have because if you want to make the Colt and Dark Order thing work, it doesn't make sense for them to win last week and then lose the next week, right? I don't really know. And then SCU, I don't really want to see them suffer another loss. They were the first tag team champions. I want to see them stay at the top of the tag team division. So I don't really know who should go over here. If I had to take a guess, I'm going to say that they're going to go with Cole Cabana and the Dark Order winning. For the 8-man tag team match, I think this was pretty obvious. It's either the Butcher or the Blade that gets pinned. So it's probably going to forward even more the feud between the FTR and the Young Bucks, who are obviously going to win. Chris Jericho, he has to beat Orange Cassidy. There's no way Orange Cassidy wins. Like, just imagine if that's some WWE shit to do. Have Orange Cassidy beat Chris Jericho. That's obviously not going to happen. Orange Cassidy's a comedy wrestler. He's great, but he's not beating Chris Jericho. And as for the World Tag Team title match, I don't know how they're going to really use this to further their... Oh, I guess they could have some, mishaps in the match. So, obviously, Hangman, Adam Page, and Kenny Omega are going to win, but there's definitely going to be further story implications for that match. So, that does it. Jeez, my voice is getting... But, I'm sorry, but... So, that wraps it up about. We're going to have a New Japan podcast. I don't know when, but we're going to do that as well. And, I'll see you guys next time.